Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host, Mark Angelides, and today I'm joined again by Mr. Jeff Charles to discuss the supposed blue wave, the Democratic Socialists of America, and the new leftist hope, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Thanks for being here, Jeff.
It's great to be here as always.
Great. So we've seen that Ocasio-Cortez has ousted a 10-term Democrat in New York and is now looking pretty secure in a victory for the state Congress. What's your opinion on the newcomer?
I think it's very interesting, but what's really made it interesting is just the fact that the media, the left-wing media, has pushed her so much. And I'll probably get to this later, but I'm not convinced that her victory over Joe Crowley is quite as big of a deal as they're making it. But that being said, she still is a very interesting figure, and she's been catapulted onto the center stage. So we'll have to see what happens next with her.
Okay. I mean, she's clearly aligned herself with Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, or the other way around. Perhaps he's aligned himself with her. And as we saw from turning up at the rally in Kansas, I think it was, where she announced that she was looking to turn the state red, which I thought was hilarious, unless, of course, she means communist, which is certainly a possibility. But are these, I don't know, I call them socialist leaders. Are they actually gaining traction in America?
So I don't feel that they're gaining much traction when it comes to government and leadership. So the thing is, the reason Ocasio-Cortez won is because there was a very low voter turnout. On top of that, Joe Crowley, yes, he was an incumbent, 10-time incumbent, but he didn't bother to really campaign. So he didn't go out into the streets. He wasn't really doing what he was supposed to do to win the victory. It was like a tortoise and the hare type of situation where he was the hare thinking that he had it all wrapped up. But apparently he did, because she did get out there and campaign. So she did win, but she won because her opponent didn't do what he was supposed to do, and there was a very low voter turnout. Now, that being said, this may not be as big of a force in the Democratic Party just yet, or in our government just yet. But it is something that we do need to keep our eyes on, because we know that in our colleges, this is what they're teaching our college kids as they're coming up. They're being taught about socialism, democratic socialism, and with the far left movement in the Democratic Party, it could very well end up that we will have more Ocasio-Cortezes.
Okay, just on a quick side note here, you and I, we're both big politicos. You know, we follow the news, we follow political theory. It's what we do. This is our day job. Can you tell the difference between a socialist and a democratic socialist?
I would think so. Here's my thing, because I'm not even sure if people who identify as democratic socialists even really know what that means. If you try to hear them explain it, it doesn't sound like really much of anything. So there are people who are actual socialists that would want to follow like the Venezuela model. The others really highlight Scandinavian countries like Norway and Sweden. But the thing is, those countries are not socialist countries. They're more socialist than the United States of America. Yeah, they've got a free market. Yeah, and they're successful despite the level of socialism that they have, not because of it. So they lean more to the left in the United States, but they're not socialist countries. So I'm not really sure if they know really what they're talking about when they talk about democratic socialism.
It's funny that you use those words, know what they're talking about, because my next question kind of ties in with that. So many of our viewers may have seen the PBS firing line interview with Ocasio-Cortez, where she kind of got into trouble on the employment figures. Could you explain what her flaws were in this argument?
Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. I loved every second of that. I mean, when she first came out and said that the reason that the unemployment numbers are so low is because everybody's working two jobs, I literally laughed out loud. I was like, why would she say that? Everybody knows why that statement is wrong, but I'll just say it anyway. When they calculate the unemployment rates, they're not calculating the number of jobs, they're calculating the number of people who have jobs. So these people could have 3 jobs and it wouldn't change that number. The bottom line is there are more people working. And she had to really squirm and do all kinds of mental gymnastics mental gymnastics to make that sound like a bad thing. So I guess that was the best that she could come up with. But in honesty, I think just like many others of her age and younger who came up being fed this stuff about socialism, they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't know the facts, and they don't really understand how any of this works.
And of course, when she talked about the epidemic of people having more than one job, I thought that was pretty strange because it's less than 5% according to the figures that I've recently seen. And this is not to say that all these people working two jobs are struggling people who clean school hallways in the morning and then work at fast food restaurants at night. This less than 5% figure, I mean, this could be a company director who has a side business, or somebody who sits on a board of directors who happens to sit on another board of directors. This is classed as two jobs. It's two forms of employment. So to say that there's an epidemic here, I think she's really using, trying to batter home the idea that America's in bad shape. People are struggling, and people are struggling. People are struggling all over the world. But I think it's better to be struggling in America than just about anywhere else.
Most definitely. And the thing is, she's running a long way to make the point that people having more than one job is a horrible thing. The reality is that the number of people who are working more than one job has gone down dramatically. So there's really no way that they can spin this in a way that makes sense. The majority of people aren't working two jobs. The unemployment rates are down because more people are working. Those are the facts.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all have our own views on what a successful political perspective might be. But I think the majority of us, we kind of take history into account when we form our, let's call it our political worldviews. We take history into account and what's happened in the past and where things have gone right or where they've gone wrong. But my question for you, Jeff, is what's going on with the American socialist movement? I mean, they're ignoring a very bloody history here. What's your take on this?
Yeah, and just to go back to what I was saying before, that is what's so dangerous, because a lot of young kids are being taught that socialism is a great political ideology, despite the fact that it has killed millions and millions and millions of people. So people are coming out of college, and even people who are already out of college, thinking that this is a great system. The thing is that, again, a lot of these people don't really know what socialism is. I've seen plenty of videos on YouTube and elsewhere where they question people and say, what is socialism? They say that these are people who call themselves socialists. They're asked, what is socialism? They can't really explain it. They'll talk about it in broad terms, like it's caring about your neighbor or helping people. I'm like, okay, like that could be anything. So the danger of this is that people don't really know what they're espousing when they espouse socialism. And that's why I'm so glad that conservatives have alternative media outlets so that we can show them what happens in Venezuela, what happened in the Soviet Union, what happens in countries that actually practice pure socialism. Because in that way, more people can become more educated. So I do think that this is something we need to keep an eye on, and we need to keep hammering the point home.
Yeah, I absolutely agreed with you, Jeff. Many thanks, Jeff. I mean, it's always a great pleasure to chat with you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, a huge thank you to you at home for joining us. We want to make sure that you never miss another Liberty Nation story. So just go to the Liberty Nation Facebook page and you can see our simple tips on how to adjust your See First settings. I mean, even when Facebook filters news, you can make sure that you can choose what you're seeing. So for more content, radio, TV, podcasts, just click on the subscribe button down below. It helps us. It really does. Make sure you don't miss any of our news and analysis. Thanks again for watching. Take care of yourselves.